Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for a dynamic effort lower day, but a quick reminder for those of you who watch these videos, please remember to click like down below. I did something a little different. I was going to come in and do chains and go real heavy for speed pulls. I'm like, you know what, let me just throw 495 on, pull them as fast as I can, and take 30-second breaks and just kind of stop when my hands start to hurt a little bit. Again, it has been still pretty cold this week. It's going to be over tomorrow and onward. It's going to be back to real warm down here again, so that will be done. And I've noticed, I feel a little rusty on pulling and stuff in general in this cold. Anything with a hinge, anything I have to squeeze the bar. So, I'm like, let me just force myself to go a hair heavier on speed work. Honestly, these would have moved faster had I done 455 instead of 495. But I'm like, you know what? Let me just get in and do some pulling. I just don't care, right? As long as we pull as hard as we can, we get the desired effect. So that the only issue is, of course, I feel like it kind of limited me to about 6 pulls before I'm kind of like, starting to feel somewhat heavy. This is going to get slower if I keep going. It's time to stop here. Had I done 455, I probably would have just pulled 10 singles fast. Either way, I'm not worried about it because I pulled as fast and as hard as I could. Again, I've done all training maxes. It seemed like they moved a little faster than these sometimes, but we'll take what we can get. Take what we can get. And some of it gave me a chance to reassess where my levers are right now, because again, as body composition changes, your deadlift levers tend to change a lot as far as footing. And I did notice near the end, I got a little better pop when I brought that footing in real narrow again. What I'm also doing at the moment, I'm doing heavier stuff right now. Even though everyone knows I'm kind of on a cruise, I'm worried about losing some body fat, worried about tendons, things like that. I'm like, we'll also build tendons and myofibrillar growth will be going heavier. Because most of the time I program for clients and I use mostly 10 rep sets outside of the backs work and speed work. I tend to go for a little more reps. And lately I'm finding myself really enjoying the idea of just doing heavier work, in the 5 to 8 rep range, and really a lot of 5s and 6s. I'm finding it more enjoyable on a lot of my assistance work. Now, obviously not the real small exercises, tricep extensions or reverse hypers, things like that. We're not doing that. But I'm just finding that I enjoy it more right now. I don't have to deal with the cardiovascular taxing in, and because I'm doing a lot of conditioning right now. I'm doing GPP pretty much daily, and I'm working that up. So in that case, I'm like, I get plenty of volume and I get cardio work there. Plus, I'm supersetting a lot of these movements. As you guys notice, if you notice the way they're staggered, I've recorded them in the order I did them, and I'm putting them in the file in order in terms of this vlog. So I'm supersetting a lot of this stuff just to get time down. And this workout was fast. I think I got this whole workout done in like 40 minutes. So it was pretty quick for me, just considering the amount of work I did here. But I went heavier. I'm doing real heavy 5s on the belt squats, trying to get as deep as I possibly can. And the idea here is just loading more mechanical tension on my quads and adductors. Right? I'm trying to get as much tension on them as I can and looking at it and saying, okay, fewest bends of the knee. Because I've noticed a lot of the deeper squatting movements, they do start to inflame my patellar tendons a little bit. And it's not bad, but it's noticeable. And I'm like, well, if I can do fewer total reps and still hit all those upper threshold fibers, it seems to not cause this quite as much. So I think that's the direction I want to go. And of course, everything is trying to minimize knee slide. And if I want, again, more degrees of knee bend, I just need to go deeper. Right? We just need to go deeper. Rather than again letting the knee slide forward, because that also puts that inflammation there. And again, I know there's a lot of arguments about that in the community, and a lot of people, there's no problem with going past your knee, or your knee going past your toe. Yeah, biomechanically you're right, but in terms of overall inflammation, yes. Particularly if we start doing it for quite a few repetitions. So I'm simply trying to avoid it. Also went heavy today. I normally have been adding bands when I do the glute ham raises. I'm like, let me just add a 10-pound plate, see how they feel. Again, the idea there today, trying to get more tension at the bottom. at the point where muscles are in the lengthened position. Let me see if I can get a little more tension at the lengthened position of the hamstring there. Same thing with the belt squats. We're going as deep as possible while doing more moderate reps, around that 5 rep mark. So I also did some supersetting with some wider grip pull-ups, right? I wanted to do some wider grip pull-ups. And I just kind of did supersets with those with my reverse hypers until I got 3 sets done, and then I did hanging leg raises in between. The first set, I'm like, it felt okay. Let me throw a little weight on. Let me keep with that theme I've been doing. So the reverse hypers, they're staying real high rep and light. We're staying with the 5 sets of 10. But I threw a 25 on and knocked out some sets of 5 on those pull-ups. And I feel like my pull-ups had gotten very, very weak lately. And same thing when I did chins the other day, the last couple upper body workouts, the strength is down on those. So I'm like, let me throw a little bit of weight on and see if we can just create some tension. And again, if I'm worried about shoulder health, which has oftentimes been kind of my pull-up type issue for me, is a shoulder health situation due to just my shoulder structure. But that's really overused, isn't it? And I'm like, if I do this, I'm cutting down the total reps I'm doing. We're cutting down the total reps, and we're still getting a lot of tension on the muscle for a significant number of reps. So it's just adjusting my strategy a little bit. And I've discussed that in the past of the potential for myofibrillar versus sarcoplasmic growth. You've seen Minnow and Lyle McDonald have both discussed this kind of quite a bit, as far as just looking harder. And as I get leaner, I kind of do want that look more and more, to just have that harder look, not the rounder look. I would rather just look harder and denser. But we see that with powerlifters. Whenever powerlifters diet down, we tend to have that look by default, just due to all the heavier lifting. And again, there seems to be some potential for a biological explanation for this. So this isn't purely a bro science thing at this point. And again, it has to do with just the more significant amount of myofibrillar growth. But yeah, I ended up doing some actual weighted pull-ups. And I do like the neutral grip pull-ups. They tend to feel the best out of everything I do. Although I do like the wide grip pronated ones also. Those tend to really hit your delts very, very hard, which is interesting because normally we don't think of pull-ups and chin-ups as hitting things like posterior deltoids as nearly as hard as a row does. But those seem to for me. So to finish the workout off, I did some hanging leg raises between my last couple sets of reverse hyperextensions. So basically after the deadlifting today, everything pretty much put my back in traction. Although we could argue that, the belt squat is really traction around the hips. It's not necessarily pulling, but at least there's no compression. There's no axial loading, no compression of the spine. So everything today was somewhat restorative on that, which if you're going to do a bunch of heavy pulling, even if it's speed pulls that are heavy, there's benefits to that for your recovery. So that's kind of just the route I went today. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.